If you're tuning low, this is the instrument for you.
Hello everyone and welcome to today's episode of the Low Tuning Squad. I am your host Andrew Baena, and on today's video we are going to be doing an interview with Bill Crook, who is the bassist of the metalcore band Spiritbox. In this interview we're going to be going over Bill's career as a musician, both full-time touring and in the studio, and we're also going to be going over some tips and tricks on how to make your low-tuned bass guitar stand out in a mix, again both live and in a mix setting. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, definitely keep watching. Let's get on to the interview. Is there anything that you do in particular to your bass sound that you find really helps your bass still cut through the mix? Because as we all know, if you tune super low, especially with guitars, they can kind of cover up a little bit of that bass range. So yeah, just if you have any tips or tricks that you'd want to share with people on how they can perhaps still make sure their bass is heard, both in the studio and in a live mix.
Yeah, like we compress the hell out of the bass sound in Spiritbox. Tuning this low and you do have more aggressive bass tone, just circling back to doing multi-band distortion. That's a huge thing because a lot of time when you just crank the distortion, all the low end gets sucked out. It's like one of the most classic problems. So if you are really serious about having a really nice dirty tone live, I would definitely invest in something like the X7, or if you're using modeling to, be running multiple channels instead of just one patch.
I was just kind of wondering, what are some of the tunings that you use within the band?
So on the first EP, we did have some stuff that was in drop C sharp. And I mean, technically we still do have drop C sharp. I just have the F sharp below it, but we're not really playing any of that 4-string C sharp B stuff anymore. There was 1 or 2 of those on the singles collection too. So basically everything that we're going to be playing live is all drop F sharp on 5-string.
During your live set, let's say, how do you switch between different tunings when you need to? Do you actually switch basses or do you use pitch shifting?
Right now, I'm doing the pitch shift. I got the Digitech drop tuner. I actually will like tuning wise, I will never drop down lower than F. So Michael will drop to F, E, and I think even below to D sharp. But if I were to go that low, it would just sound like mush, especially live. So
I know that you've definitely not used Dingwall forever. So was there any kind of deciding factor that made you switch over to Dingwall, whether it might have been the extended scale length, especially since you guys tune so low, or something like that?
For sure. I mean, so my first band I was ever in, we did have some stuff around the F sharp area, and I played 5-string. And then after I was in that band for, I don't know, into like the mid O's, like 06, 07. And then I switched over to like pop punk genre. And I don't think we ever tuned anything lower than D standard. So when I came back to playing metal again, it was kind of like an all new ball game. Like, yeah, I had to buy all new gear, but something that I guess that was like really important was not only like the clarity, but like, yeah, you can put out whatever string on a bass that you want and tune it down. But I mean, there's probably a pretty good chance that once you get past the 12th fret or you get it past anything higher, was that because the neck is so long, you're going to stay in tune. And I mean, yeah, you can, even when you're recording, you can tune for every note, or you can go in and tune every note, but like that, and it kind of starts to sound a little bit more robotic. So the first time I saw Dingwall, actually, Mike sent me a Craigslist ad. He's like, have you heard of this brand? He's like, there's one on the island, you should check it out. And that's when I started researching the brand and really like finding out about multi-scale, how it works, and it just like clicked to me as someone who grew up playing piano. I was like, I'm like, this long string, it's because the note is tuned lower. I'm like, that sounds freaking awesome. And I wasn't even really thinking about sonically how it was going to cut through. I would just, in my mind, I was like, well, the string's not going to sound super floppy, and it's going to be better to stay in tune.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then just by chance, I walked into Long & McQuaid, which is the Canadian Guitar Center, and they had a Dingwall in there, and usually they're impossible to find in stores. So I grabbed it pretty quick. Another awesome thing about them too is that they're not super heavy. Playing some
Right,
five strings, the bodies seem to be a little bit bigger too, and it can hurt your back quite a bit. So I do really appreciate that they don't weigh 1,000 pounds.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's pretty much the main reason why I personally use them as well. As I mean, you already know this, but of course, having that extra long scale length is super, super handy when you're tuning low for a couple of reasons. Like you said, it's like, one, yes, it does sound better in my opinion, but in addition to that, because the scale is longer, you can get away with using thinner strings, which is so much better. Because if you're using like a 34 or a 35-inch bass and trying to tune all the way down to F sharp, like, man, you got to use
170, 175.
Yeah, probably even thicker than that. So it's nice with the Dingwall that having that extra 2 inches definitely makes a huge difference with being able to get away with that thinner string, right?
Yeah, I think I did get away with like a 145 for a bit before. Oh, wow. When I was just like trying stuff out, and like it did hold pretty well. I have some friends that play Dingwall as well, and they don't tune to F sharp. I think maybe the G sharp, and they're not using 150 and up, and it's pretty incredible that you can get away with that. I can only name 2 companies, one of them being Dingwall, that makes a factory model super long scale instrument. Right. So when you're trying something new like this, it's easy to get excited and just want to go grab whatever from the music store, but like, do your research. There's tons of amazing stuff on YouTube. The Dingwall Instagram has great Q&As. Read all that stuff. Take your time, because you're just going to get frustrated if you can't get your sound in 5 seconds. Invest your money properly. Read into why you're buying these things. Don't just be like, oh, well, I saw so-and-so use it, so it must be good. Right. Because you're not going to actually understand how to use it when you get it. That's the thing, is like, everyone has this instant gratification these days because you can just get a preset, put it on, and it sounds great. But I mean, you're not really understanding why it sounds great. You're not really learning anything. I have a lot of people, I'm an older guy to be getting into this stuff. I guess you could say I'm 35. I have a lot of friends my age, and they're like, how do you get your bass to sound like that? What's your tone? What do you use? And I say, oh, I use a plugin, or like I'm using this, and they're just like, sounds too complicated. I'm like, okay, well then why did you ask me?
Right.
I have people that hit me up multiple times, like, how do you do that? And I'm like, well, why do you even want to know? Because every time I try to explain to you, they're like, oh, it's too much, Right. Yeah, and take it from someone that, like, I tried lots of different brands. I remember you and I, we're trying like maybe baritone guitars with the Digitech Octave, like. Right. Yeah. I spent a lot of time and money to get to where I am, and no BS. Like, if you're tuning low, this is the instrument for you.
Thank you everyone for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Also, a huge thank you to Bill Crook. Go check out Spiritbox if you haven't already. They're going to be linked in the description and the pinned comment. And of course, last but not least, be sure to subscribe to this channel for more low-tuned bass content. Look forward to reading your guys' comments, and we'll see you next time.